So Skill Cat made a video. It's called the top 5 classes in all WoW PvP. So it's like the best all-time classes in World of Warcraft PvP. I have not watched this video. I do not know what they say. I have my own thoughts, but I'm curious what they say.
Think of balance. They're thinking of it in terms of Pokemon. Grass beats water, water beats fire, and fire beats grass. But what if you gave Charizard here a machine gun and allowed him to turn invisible? Now we have a problem. As it turns out, there are a few classes that are all really good in PvP, and we mean all of PvP. And we know that a lot of you out there do way more than just solo shuffle.
Oh, BG. So they're talking about BGs too.
So that got us thinking, what is the best class at doing everything? 2v2, 3v3, solo shuffle, and BG Blitz. Today, we will rank the top 5 classes in all of PvP for Season 1 of The War Within for the true Giga Chad gamers. If you're looking to play something new this patch, remember that WoW PvP is honestly a lot like cooking.
Peekaboo, man.
You don't want to be that guy getting flamed every game for doing 0 damage. If you're sick of being hard stuck in Hell's Kitchen, we've rolled out brand new courses for The War Within at skillcap.com.
Skillcap has some great damage classes.
Might come as a complete surprise, but
I
actually think Evoker makes the cut. Both Preservation and Devastation are pretty solid in all forms.
You think Evoker is a top 5 PvP class? What do you guys think?
Now in solo shuffle, and still
I could see it.
Good in 2v2 and 3v3. Preservation is also one of the best BG Blitz healers, not only having ridiculous healing output, but also being one of the best flag carriers of all things. That's right, with high mobility and after recent nerfs to Mistweaver monks, Prez is really good at playing one of the main objective roles. Devastation is up there too, being able to FC in a pinch, while also having amazing damage in teamfights. Devastation also continues to be one of the most solid arena specs in every bracket. It doesn't really have many bad lobbies in solo shuffle, and can even hold its own as one of the best casters in 2v2. Obviously, Augmentation is a bit of a wild card in all forms of content, but hey, Evokers at the very least have 2 very strong spec options for PvP. Next up on our list is Warlock, with all 3 specs being quite strong.
Warlock, huh?
Both Demo and Destro got some pretty significant buffs recently, but Affliction is still really solid. It's quite rare for a class to have 3 viable arena specs at once, but Warlock currently fits that description.
Okay.
Affliction and Destro are relatively interchangeable, performing a very similar role.
Is that Ezreal? It is, yeah.
Affliction is less about Ezreal's most of these videos and more about doing big microbursts. Destruction, on the other hand, has a lot of
one little caveat I want to say. I played Demo in Battleground Blitz. I've never had less fun. Demo in Battleground Blitz is so toxic because you just have little imps that keep you in combat indefinitely. If you guys play Demo Warlock, you're going to know exactly what I'm talking about. But you just have pets and imps and shit all over the place, just keeping you in combat. It's so annoying.
Through a few instant cast globals, but even having some decent finishing power with Chaos Bolt and a strong 2-minute cooldown with Infernals, making it quite viable in solo shuffle. Demo is a unique case, and has the key advantage of being the only caster in the game with a reliable healing reduction effect and actual lockdown. This allows it to have amazing synergy with other wizards, while still being competitive with melee. While Warlock isn't the best class in 2v2, it's definitely far from the worst, and with recent buffs to Demo, we could see its stocks rise in the coming weeks. The only place Warlocks fall a little bit short is in BG Blitz. They're definitely not bad, but a bit held back by their mobility. Gateway is definitely a helpful form of utility on some maps, but Warlocks themselves move like snails compared to other classes. With that said, Affliction Warlocks can bring a ton of damage in teamfights when left unchecked. Seriously, the amount of AoE damage they can do is definitely a selling point for anyone who likes to top the meters. Coming in at number 3 is Druid, which is probably
so what do we got? We got Evoker, Warlock, and Druid.
Dynamic class in World of Warcraft. Feral had an enormous lead in the arena meta for a while, being the best melee in the game in 2v2, 3v3, and solo shuffle for multiple weeks in a row, even after getting hit with some nerfs along the way. We could definitely see Blizzard pull out the nerf bat soon, but that brings us to Boomkin. Boomy is a spec that we think is one of the best long-term investments in PvP, especially in the War Within. While it might not be the best spec in solo shuffle, it's only a few more buffs away from being extremely meta-dominant. Its recent rework gave it 2 charges of Incarnation, which is a ridiculous tool to have in solo shuffle. And by the way, we got the inside scoop that many AWC teams are actually practicing balanced Druid in 3v3.
Oh, really?
Overall specs for BG Blitz.
I knew it, man.
It's basically a Swiss Army knife, custom made to tackle any problems in BGs.
Boomies are super fun in Battleground Blitz. I think Boomies are
infight
really
damage,
underrated.
while also having the ability to play objectives thanks to its great mobility, control, and stealth, of course. Who would have thought that being invisible is a great tool to have in an objective-focused game mode? Resto Druid might also be a good investment, too, for any arena players. While the spec hasn't been the greatest in 3v3 or solo shuffle so far, we also think it's only a few buffs away from being highly competitive once again. This is a trend we've seen in almost every expansion so far. Resto Druid starts off as relatively mediocre and then becomes absolute god tier towards season 2 and 3. So if you like to do everything in PvP,
that's absolutely true, man.
Play a few different roles, then Druid is a solid choice. Before we reveal our top 2, there are some honorable mentions who...
Okay, so what do you think? What do you guys think? Let's just take a little bit of an interactive approach here. What do you guys think? There's no way Rogue is in the top PvP class. What is it, Rogue and Mage? Rogue, the guarantee Rogue's in there. Could it be Priest? I feel like there's some good ones. There's Hunter. Hunter is a good PvP class. Rogues, Shaman. Shaman would surprise me, but I don't know. There's too many good classes.
Didn't quite make the cut. First up is Paladin, who just got a massive rework. While Holy has definitely been a standout healer in 3v3,
Paladin is an honorable mention.
Still a bit outclassed in 2v2 and BG Blitz. Ret Paladin has been a bit mediocre across the board, struggling in Arena, having a few glimpses of being high tier, but then getting outclassed at every turn. While Paladins do have some useful utility in BG Blitz, they're not as dominant as the other specs we've mentioned so far, and not nearly as strong as our top 2. Priest was also a strong contender for our top 5, but barely missed the cut.
Oh,
Discipline
shit.
is a very solid healer in all forms of content, being an absolute beast in 2v2 with the Void Weaver build, single-handedly gatekeeping most double DPS comps. Disc is also one of the best healers in 3v3 and solo shuffle, having amazing synergy with many other meta specs and having repeat appearances in the AWC. Finally, it's one of the best healers in BG Blitz, having high HPS for team fights, great cooldowns, and some highly unique utility. Despite some recent nerfs, Shadow is also quite strong in solo shuffle.
Shadow's been doing well.
3v3, where it has been a core part of this season's God comp. Unfortunately, Shadow does fall a bit short in BG Blitz, where it is definitely outclassed by other DPS. The final honorable mention we have is Mage. If there's one thing you can safely rely on,
wait, Mage didn't make it.
At least one Mage spec will be viable in Arena.
Dang.
So far, Frost has been a solid caster in 3v3, especially at higher ratings, where it's taken turns with Shadow
Mage didn't
Priest
make
and
it.
Warlock
That's
as
right.
the best casters slot in with high tier melee. Frost is also still really strong in solo shuffle and only falls off in 2v2, where it's a mid-tier spec most of the time anyway. While Fire and Arcane haven't been the best performing specs in Arena, they're still highly competitive for anyone wanting to invest some extra effort. With that said, the class does make up a ton of ground in BG Blitz, where Ice Wall is an enormously powerful mechanic to have, capable of making clutch plays. Mage is always a bit of a niche pick for BGs no matter what. It's always going to be good, even without any gimmicks. Now, the main reason Mage didn't make the cut is because one of our top 2 classes is just better and easier across the board. But before we reveal our top 2 picks, we're going to clarify something first. Our number 1 pick, despite being better overall, is a bit more difficult, which might not make it number 1 for all players. Coming in at number 2 is Hunter, a class which we think is extremely dominant in PvP while also being very accessible for most players. By now, you probably know that all 3 Hunter specs are quite strong in Arena, with Beast Mastery being one of the most dominant specs for a few months.
No way!
In fact,
Hunter, our favorite
goes much
spec.
further than solo shuffle in 3v3 because it's also super oppressive in 2v2. Whenever BM is this good, it's basically a massive gatekeeper for other specs in the bracket. Anyway, out of all 3 Hunter specs, Marks is currently the worst in Arena, but that's not really saying much as we still think it's at least B tier in solo shuffle. Survival is somewhere in the middle though, being significantly harder to play.
B tier.
This is why the types of players who are really good at survival are typically one-tricks. You need to be willing to invest a lot of time into the spec since it is so unique. Now, Hunter wouldn't make it to number 2 if it couldn't compete in BG Blitz, but as it turns out, Hunters continue to be one of the best specs in the new competitive format. Marksmanship might have gotten most of the attention so far this expansion, but even survival is quite strong, putting up some ridiculous numbers on the damage charts thanks to the rework to Butchery. In any case, damage alone isn't what makes Hunters so good in BG Blitz. They are yet another class with a well-rounded toolkit, making them great for objective play. Whether it's defending a base or killing an FC,
I feel like Hunters have been good forever.
But if there's one class which is truly a jack of all trades, it has to be Rogue.
Rogue, the number 1 PvP class in the game. Was there any doubt? Was there any surprises? Where's the Rogue Copium? Where is it?
is our #1 pick as the best class in PvP. Right now, all 3 rogue specs are quite strong in Arena, each having their own niche. Subtlety is still the most ubiquitous and a fan favorite for a reason. It has the nasty double threat of control and burst, making it extremely strong when playing with any high-tier wizard in 3v3. With that said, both Assassination and Outlaw have made a name for themselves in Arena so far this season. Asta sacrifices a bit of control for unparalleled AoE damage. It's one of those specs that can snowball
He was
the game
punching
quite
it right now.
with a single vanish. Outlaw has also been trending in recent weeks, having a showing in the AWC and becoming increasingly popular in solo shuffle. It's arguably the hardest rogue spec to learn, since it requires high APM and a lot of attention to detail, playing around cooldown reduction and the unpredictability of roll the bones. Outside of solo shuffle in 3v3, rogues are still doing really well in 2v2. Sub is one of those specs that will always be competitive as long as it has enough burst damage, and when paired with an aggressive healer, this comp is a massive execution test, even for the BM hunters that gatekeep the bracket. When it comes to BG Blitz, rogues are in a league of their own. Sometimes the outcome of the game is determined before it even starts. If one team has a rogue and the other doesn't, they're instantly at an advantage. Rogues are the ultimate class when it comes to playing objectives. They can easily assault bases by themselves, relying on exploiting their control in order to ninja cap. Ironically, their control also makes them great base defenders and can survive a surprisingly long time as long as cooldowns are ready.
Dude, rogues are
We're gonna have to warn
insane,
you
bro.
once again that rogue is not the best for beginners. It's a spec that thrives.
This is such BS, by the way. I'm not gonna lie. I played a Battleground Blitz against an Outlaw Rogue. They actually just get the base. They literally just get the base. I don't know what you can do to stop it. When they play this triple grapple, they can literally just assault the base before you can even do anything.
They're ready. But
It's
we're gonna have to warn
like,
you.
you literally just sprint in, going Mach speed, and then you just triple grapple or quadruple grapple. Quadruple grapple. They literally just get there and cap it before. It's actually so dumb.
Once again, that rogue is not
Like, look
the
at
best
this.
for beginners. It's a spec that thrives off exploiting small advantages. In order to truly stand out in arenas and be
Look at that. Look at how far away. I swear this is actually super dumb. I'm not going to say this needs to be nerfed, but this is actually just stupid.
you're going to need strong foundational knowledge. And that's why
I'm going to sit here. I'm going to go one step further. I don't think anyone in stealth should be moving faster than an epic mount. Call me crazy. Call me old-fashioned.
our class courses are so insanely OP for gaining rating, because they teach the fundamentals needed to actually reach your potential in easy-to-follow guides that you won't find anywhere else. Skill cap
No different than a Mistweaver carrying a flag? Well, I mean, they nerfed that. What do you mean?
is our players, helping them reach their rating goals season after season faster than the competition. And no matter what, we will back you up with a rating gain guarantee, where we promise that you will see back guarantee for those of you who just want to try us out.
Dude, maybe I need to try out skill cap for Demon Hunter.
After this video,
Cool video. I definitely agree with a lot of it. I might actually slot out Warlock for Mage, in all honesty. And Shaman not making the list either is, I guess at top 5 you have to cut something, right? Like, there's so many good PvP classes. It's hard.